Hey, hello, this is Jean from the podcast Thrive, Not Survive After Child Abuse. It's a few, well, I almost wanted to say a few weeks ago, but that's actually not true. It's only a week ago. I've been away for a week, 10 days, so to speak. Um, I'm always greeting in the beginning of Instagram Live the people that jumping online. As always on Saturday, 10 o'clock Dallas time, and it's winter time now, so we have skipped an hour. I always do this podcast and Instagram Live at the same time, so this will be my number. I think number 42 or 43 of the podcast Strive Not Survive After Child Abuse, but at the same time on Saturday, as always, it's my 10 o'clock little broadcast. So I might sometimes look at this way because that's where my other camera and this is where my Instagram camera. So today's topic is about when life gives you unexpectedly an opportunity, and with that often it comes a huge learning, and how does it come that we sometimes miss that effect in it? And okay, someone just pointed me out that I need to put my microphone a little bit closer. Otherwise, the sound will not be recorded well, right? So, I've been 1 week out and I'm already kind of losing all my bearings in how to do this correctly. Anyhow, it's good to be back. Also, my podcast. I had two broadcasts in a period of 10 days, or maybe 12. So it's a little bit less than normal, but hopefully it was not less fun. Anyhow, I had my birthday on November 9. Yeah, it's still time for you to say happy birthday, Sean. And because of that, my best friend for 28 years already. Yeah, you can kind of figure out how old I am if I just reveal all these dates and numbers to you. But of 28 years, actually called me just a few days before my birthday and said, "Hey, um, if we combine our birthday, we have a really special number. Why don't we go and make a trip together?" Actually, and I was planning. If you know me a little bit well, I don't like to celebrate my birthday at all. I stopped doing that since I was 14, and then once in a while I throw in an extra party or something. I'm not sure if that's for me or just for to keep other people happy, but I don't know why. There's no specific reason. I guess it's just me being weird. I'm not so big on celebrating my birthday, but I must honestly admit, if no one would say happy birthday or no one would do something extra for me, giving me small gifts, you can still give me small gifts. You can also give me big gifts if you want to, by the way. Then I would not be happy at all. So it's a little bit, a little bit of two sides. But I don't like typically have a special party on my birthday. That doesn't mean that I don't like parties, though. I do like parties. I just don't like my own birthday party. Does that make sense? So when she called me and said, "Hey, do you want to make a special trip?" I was a little bit hesitant. I said, I have a lot of work to do. Also, we all have a little bit, we are a little bit more tight on money lately because of the whole situation. So I didn't feel much like it. I mean, I was really cool, wanted to spend a little bit more time with her, but making a trip and everything that's to it, I didn't know so much. But here's the thing. She convinced me, obviously, because I went, and she said, "You know what? It's part of your birthday gift. Why don't you come over and to Ovid?" She lives in California, and she had a whole trip planned that goes through the Midwest of the United States, and that is Idaho and Wyoming and Utah and all that area. And I've been there a little bit, but it's a while ago, and definitely not at this time of the year. It's very close to when winter comes in, when you drive to the mountains, and we wanted to go to a special place there, and it's in Wyoming. It's called the Devil's Tower. I think I called that mountain like 4 or 5 different names, but the true name is Devil's Tower. And then don't get upset about the name. The name is given by something. Actually, the Native Americans, they don't call it the Devil's Towers. They have all kind of different names for it. We don't go in there. Yeah, but that was, let's say, one of the goals on our trip. Now the topic of today is when life throws you unexpected opportunities, and with that, through unexpected big learnings. And sometimes we are so caught up in our schedules and we want to schedule everything that we also sometimes want to schedule opportunities. And that's not always possible. Sometimes you have to go with the flow, and that flow suddenly, that wave suddenly gives you something super unexpected thing. So now how do you manage that in life? Right? That is a little bit the question. And if you think about most people's life, nowadays it's all very regulated, right? It's We have our schedules and we have our rhythms and we have all these. We have our schemes. If you think about how we do our fitness, for instance, it has to be all in a scheme, and we want to sell that to people, saying, "Hey, do these 10 steps, and if you follow this for 2 weeks, then this will happen to you." And with all that, and then there is a lot of good things to have things in a regular base, but with that as well, we sometimes suck the beauty out of life too, because most of the beauty actually is in the unexpected things of life, right? Does that make sense? Life comes with unexpected things, and because of our need to regulate everything, put everything in schemes and schedules, and if you look in how, if you look, I mean, I live in the Dallas area, and if you look from above how our area is constructed, everything is scheduled there as well. The houses are, there's always system in it. And I was driving through the mountains with my best friend, and most of what we did was actually driving in a car and going through the mountains, and we went from scenic point to scenic point, but most of the time actually we spent in the car listening to music, making pictures and talking. We had a lot of unexpected views, and it's not just like after an hour we had an unexpected view. There were actually moments, like, I'll give you an example, when we went through Zion Park, which is in I believe Nevada, and it's like one corner you saw a completely different mountain, and it was literally minute after minute we're surprised by just the view that we had, just the view of the beauty that nature gave us. Think about it. If you drive in a city. Specifically in the United States, excuse me for that, by the way, but specifically in the United States, it doesn't surprise you so much. Maybe if you go to an old Italian city like Siena or something, or Florence or something, and you go through those streets, it might surprise you at every corner. But when does nature, or when you drive to your work, surprise you? I mean, the only thing that surprises you is someone who is actually behaving really bad on the road. But nature itself doesn't surprise you. So I was thinking about these things, and I will release a lot of the things that I have, saw and was inspired to in my coming podcast. So this is kind of a little bit of a teaser for that, and I will tell you a little bit more at the end of this Instagram live. Is that we don't let ourselves surprise anymore by life itself. Our need sometimes to regulate everything actually suck out the surprise of life. But most of the spice of life comes by surprises. And most of the big opportunities that we have comes by surprises as well. Now, I had a saying, right? Opportunity comes together when practice is at a certain level. Right? Sometimes say, hey, you're so lucky that you took that opportunity. But you also need to have a certain skill level to see a certain opportunity. If you think about it with sports, sometimes you have an opportunity to win a championship, but that is only because you practice yourself up to a certain level. And one of the things that I saw in this trip, I could have gone just through the Midwest and had a wonderful time with my friend and saw all the beauty of these things, but what I didn't know of myself, that I prepped myself also from, opening my mind up for some, let's say some inspirational opportunities. As some of you know, at least some of you that are online know, is I'm working on my second book. right? And I was looking for inspiration for my second book. I actually also looking for places where I can write the second book. Now, strangely enough, that was not my objective of the trip. That was not my objective of the trip. But I put myself on a certain level by working on the book, doing some pre-work, thinking about some concepts already. And when I was driving through nature, there actually these things became a little bit more clear to me. So I saw things because I prepped my mind already for the opportunity that was out there. Does that make any sense? Right? I hope it makes sense, because this is a little bit how you say, okay, you can just go in there and enjoy nature as it comes to you, which is great, and you should do that too, by the way. There were many places where we did that. But you can also let these things work together. So it's never about everything you need to schedule, and it shouldn't also not be just live and just see what's happening to you, right? There's definitely something in between there that brings you even to a higher and a more synergetic level of doing that. If I do only schedules the whole day, I don't see anything else. I have my how do you call it, my blindfolds, or my tunnel vision on. If I just live like this, I have no schedule, I have no objectives at all, then maybe I miss a lot of things too. So it has always been in my coaching a little bit the challenge for the people that work with me is to combine those two things, right? You have to have a certain goal in life, but at the same time, don't close your eyes for the things that could happen along the way. I almost did that, by the way. I almost did not take that opportunity to go on the trip and come back with a lot of inspiration, and I almost always have a lot of energy, so I don't think I have to go for energy anywhere else. A lot of people say maybe you should tone down your energy a little bit, but anyhow, I also came back with a lot of inspirational energy, right? So you could also do that on the other side wrong. I saw that a little bit too. You could plan a trip like that and have so much expectation of what you will see that you are a little bit disappointed in it. Does that make sense? And okay, if I tell you we go to this trip and you see all these beautiful things and it's all these amazing, amazing, amazing things, and I make this so high for you that when you go with me on a trip, that is kind of like, oh yeah, it's beautiful, but maybe not so as amazing as I had. So keep that open mind while you schedule it a little bit. Together actually gives you the most result if you want to be result driven. You don't always have to be result driven, by the way, right? A lot of these things, a lot of the results that I had, from the trip is it's hard to capture on paper, and definitely, to put them in several podcasts is something that I'll try to do, but it's not so easy at all, right? So I want to definitely share in the coming weeks what I learned over there. But one of the things that I was hoping for actually happened at that time, right? And there was I definitely wanted to plan for one day where I had at least hours of silence for me. And complete silence is a little bit eerie, by the way. That doesn't exist only in an unnatural environment. Complete silence, or maybe if you go into space, I'm not sure about that because I've never been into space. But then on our Earth, complete silence is almost impossible. But I was on the Devil's Tower. That's just what the name of the mountain is. And by the way, I ask you, oh no, actually that is for Tuesday, so I'm not giving that away yet. Sorry about that. But the Devil's Tower. So I was sitting there, and that's this huge mountain. It rises up 1.5 kilometers above sea level, so it's pretty high actually. And the last part is pure rocks, right? It's rock formation, and there were actually two climbers that you could see climbing, professional climbers, hopefully, that were climbing that rock. But there were it was off season, and there were a lot of kind of big rocks, and for some reason it's kind of nice to sit on top of one of these rocks and just let your mind go. People might call that meditation and stuff like that. And afterwards, I had a talk with someone about meditation, and a lot of people believe that they say to me like, "Jean, I cannot meditate." There is no such thing as you cannot meditate. By the way, there are definitely some formal ways of meditation, but just sitting in nature is probably the most um, basic, but maybe one of the most strong ways of meditate. And when is that? Honestly, tell me if you are online right now. You might type it. When is the last time that you actually just sat in nature for more than 5 minutes and just listening what was going on? And if you do that, you will come to conclusion that you start to hear more instead of less. It's not that that sound was not there before, but listen to what I say, right? You start to hear more instead of hearing less. Although it's silent, right? You start to hear more than less, because you start to defocus yourself, right? If you now listen to this podcast, you maybe hopefully focus to what I'm trying to say to you. But when you just sit in nature in all quietness, you start to pick up sounds that you did not have before. And sometimes it's kind of scary, because at some point in time, I mean, I'm not a really nature person, if you know me a little bit. So I heard some noises very close to me, and I thought, oh, maybe it's a snake or something. But once you get all these weird, city-like fears gone, then all these sounds are just more natural. Um, for instance, can you hear the trees now? Maybe you cannot hear the tree, but you hear the wind going through the trees, right? Stuff like that. Can you hear the rocks? You cannot hear the rocks, but here again, the way the wind goes around that mountain actually gives a super special sound. There were definitely animals that we don't see a lot here in Dallas. There were chipmunks, because we have a lot of squirrels here, but we don't have any chipmunks here, so we saw those a lot as well. So you had to do that down, and actually that moment that I was doing that, and I could do that, fortunately for me, for a long time, that actually became significant for the whole trip, because just driving in a car could also make you that you only see what's on the road, right? Which is good if you're the driver. But if you're driving shotgun, you're sitting next to the person, then maybe there are things that you want to see, there are things that get surprised to see. And that's a little bit what life is about, right? How do we still use our senses when we go through life? And can we see the opportunities that, and here comes the thing for today, can we see the opportunities that life presents us daily? Yeah, life presents us daily opportunities. And can we see those? Sometimes we don't see those because our schedule is too tight. Now, if you, I know, by the way, there is one of my friends online. He is studying really hard for his master's. Is it your master's, by the way? Yeah, I think it's his master's, or maybe already his PhD. I forgot a little bit. But your schedule is so tight that you don't see the opportunities that life presents as well. You could also have too much time on yourself, and you get so idle that you don't see the opportunities as well. One of my friends asked me, hey, you have to do a podcast every day. How do you do that? How do you get your inspiration every day? I said, well, I try to prepare it every day, and I'll do a little bit, right? But if I prepare it too much, I sometimes sit in front of paper and say, oh, I don't know anything to talk about. So what I often do, I just let it go. I just let it flow, right? I let it flow. Now, that causes, by the way, that maybe 5 out of 10 are not so good podcasts, but hopefully the other half are podcasts that are easier to listen to. Right, so this is one of those podcasts. I mean, it's up to you to decide whether this was a useful broadcast or not. I just wanted to inform you actually that I'm back, and that I made a very unexpected trip. And when you do unexpected things, you will get unexpected things back, and it could be equally bad or wrong, bad or good. And if you stop thinking about what's good and what is bad, then maybe there are a lot of really nice things. It took me actually, by the way, 2 or 3 days to get a little bit in that mode. And to be honest, and the first 3 days I was a little bit complaining, not only in my head, but also, I just said it like, man, I shouldn't make this trip, man. I have too much to do. I need to finish my schedules, stuff like that. So I was not really into it at all. And probably the first 2-3 days, I missed a couple of things because my head was too full with thinking that I wanted to do and I should have done and stuff like that. And then and I let it go, and I accepted what it was going, and I went to the mountains. If I have to tell you what I saw in the trip for the last 10 days, I can summarize it in one word, and that is I saw mountains. But if I try to describe you the differences between all these mountains that I saw, I don't have enough in 10 days that are to come to describe that. That's how different that was. And that's what life should be, right? It has that weirdness that we can say, hey, what did you do? I want to connect this. Hopefully this makes a lot of sense to you. I do reverse journaling. I think I've talked to you about that before. And reverse journaling is if you, so I do reverse journaling and I do reverse scheduling, right? So I write down what I do in a day instead of writing ahead what I want to do in a day. And I do that to discover what are the important and non-important things that I do in a day. And it looks a little bit like this. Let me show you that, and then I'll connect these two things together. Here I have a good example. So just bear with me. If you listen to this on a podcast, you cannot see it, but I hold up my daily journal. So I write from hour to hour and minute to minute. I write down what I do, and then afterwards I highlight what I did that day, right? And I started to take that habit on a few months ago. I used to do that in the past too. And instead of scheduling everything ahead, right, which is more in my head anyhow, because I know what I want to do, I just write down if I achieved that, and I highlight if I did the most important things that day. And lo and behold, that is actually a stronger way of keeping myself focused on the most important things in life. Now, if you do only the scheduling ahead, you miss a lot of things, right? You achieve a lot too, but you also miss a lot of things. You need to find that balance. And that's what I learned a little bit in the trip that I went through. I want to schedule the last 10 days actually full of work, but something interrupted that, nice interruption. My friend invited me for this trip. And I still was in the scheduling mode. I was going with her on a trip, but I was in my scheduling mode, and therefore in the first few days I missed a lot of things that I could have seen, right? Maybe not a lot, but some of them. And but while I was giving into that, I start to see more and more opportunities actually fitted very well of the work that I normally am doing. I'm coaching people, so I need inspiration. I'm a writer, so I need inspiration. And I didn't schedule any time in that whole schedule to get inspiration, but it was given to me by life. Does that make sense? So life is always about schedule ahead, but don't put it so close that you don't see the opportunities that life has to give to you. I hope that made a little bit sense, and I gave you a little bit of update what I have been up to for the last 10 days. I will be back, by the way, next Saturday. I promise you I have a little bit more concrete topic for you today. This Tuesday, by the way, when I do The Place at 12 o'clock Dallas time, which is 7 o'clock in Europe. I always have a lot of European listeners too. 7 o'clock in the afternoon or in the evening on Tuesday, we have I don't want to say a special one, but I skipped The Place twice. And it's going to be about 4 levels of consciousness. If you go back to one of my previous podcasts, I started to introduce that, and it's definitely something that can change the world. I promise you that. It sounds like an overpromise, but it truly is. It's one of the things that I knew, of course, already about, and I've been talking about, but through this trip, I was more clear. Just to reveal you, I had my birthday November 9. You can still wish me happy birthday, right? And someone gave me this tremendous gift for my 60th birthday. I welcomed it very well, right? And I will use this gift to give it back to you all that are listening to me and to other people as well. So this was Jean with Instagram Live. Also on my podcast, that's on this side. That's why you see me once in a while turning my head. I will be back, obviously, with the podcast tomorrow night. And I hope to see you actually on the place. If you have never been there, go to Facebook Live or send me a message. Then I send you a Zoom link, and then you can actually join the discussion. Right? Does it make sense? All right. This was Shah, and I hope to see you next week again. Bye bye.